recording.
Hello, hello.
Hi,
It's
everyone.
Look at these faces that I love. Hi,
Oh,
Tiffany. I
Beautiful
keep getting to see your
faces.
face.
Hi, hi, hi.
Welcome and welcome back. Hi, Jess. Hi, Becky. Hi, Dee. All right. Hi, Zeffy.
So do I start? What do I do? How are we doing
Okay,
that?
nope.
Yeah.
Be here.
We
Well,
usually
intro, yeah. We're just letting
okay.
them get in here.
Yeah.
Got a few more people in the waiting room. Wait till like 12:01 and then I'll
Yeah.
give you a formal introduction.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
and then one more thing. I'm
mhm.
sorry, guys.
What's up?
When I when I want to share my screen, how do I do that
Huh?
again? Oh, start share. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yep.
Right.
You
Share
see it?
screen,
Okay.
start share. That's
Technology.
it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Nice,
Hi,
nice.
Wesley.
Let's begin. You can hear us? Anybody else from your class in here, Olivia?
Hi,
Amy.
Amy.
I love that you guys have a group chat going on and a Zoom going on. It's amazing.
Super cool.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, our guest today is Olivia Konrath, who is a Death School grad, and she's up to some really cool stuff that she's going to talk to us about. You want to
Yeah.
give us a formal intro, Miss Lauren?
Sure. I don't know. We actually were following you before you joined Death School, which is
Yeah.
super cool. Dead Daddy trip. So if you guys aren't following her already, definitely do so. But it tells the story of you and your dad, Skeleton, traveling across the United States, and you guys recorded it and made a film about it. And the film is called My Dead Dad. And it's now being premiered at film festivals. It was just premiered at Santa Barbara Film Festival. So I love that you're sharing your story. I love that we've been able to follow your story this whole time. And it's not just been fascinating, but it's like a love story and a grief story. And it's funny. And it's like everything. And I really think that when we teach about death and dying and grief, like this journey is pretty much all of that. So we're really happy to have you here with us today and excited to learn more about your experience.
Well, I am so grateful to be here. I took death school this fall. And it was a great time for me to take this class. We had wrapped up filming and I was in this sort of holding pattern of waiting for any film festival to get back to us. And I was actually having panic attacks, which I had never had before, despite having lost my parents and undergoing other trauma. It was really terrifying for me. And Death School created this, provided to me this community, this safe community. And I'm just so grateful for it. So I will share my screen. Okay, yep, desktop, got it. Everyone can see, you can still see me too, right? Good. Okay, so this is my family. I just wanted to give you a little background. I grew up in New York City. I grew up on Park Avenue. I come from some old money. I'm a waspy little basic bitch. But I had a very privileged childhood with both my parents and my older brother. I had very loving and caring and kind parents. My dad was a very quirky guy, and he was a New York Times columnist for 25 years. So he wrote, he was an architectural historian. He wrote about old buildings in New York, and he was a character. And so there was a lot of laughter and love in our home. And I'm very grateful for that. Unfortunately, though, a couple things to throw into my trauma timeline for you all. In 2002, I was swimming in the ocean off of Kwagling Island, which is like right by the Hamptons. I was spending the weekend with my friend and her family, and I lost consciousness in the water. There were two ICU nurses that happened to be spending a day at the beach, and they pulled me out of the water, and my body was completely blue and my mouth was open and I didn't have a pulse. But they did CPR and I came to, and I've lived to tell the tale. And I basically have a pacemaker defibrillator as a precaution because we never really were able to figure out what the hell happened there. And I'm actually getting a new one next week. And so there's that. In 2016, I got married at my house on Martha's Vineyard, a place that's very near and dear to me. And that was in the fall of 2016. In March of 2017, or at the end of February 2017, my dad went into septic shock. And it was unexpected. He had a condition called polycythemia vera, which is basically a kind of leukemia, but it's the opposite. So basically your red blood cells overproduce, and so your blood is pretty viscosic. And we kind of kept that very regulated with medication. And it was fine. It wasn't life-threatening. He wasn't supposed to die. But he got pneumonia and went to the hospital. The doctors had to make this difficult decision to intubate him because he was really uncomfortable. Intubate him, take him off of his polycythemia vera medication because that was hindering an antibiotic from helping fix his pneumonia. And in that process, his body erupted in an autoimmune response called a cytokine storm. And so his fever spiked to 109 degrees. He went into septic shock, and he never fully woke up again. My dad was very open about his mortality throughout his life. I can't remember how old I was, but at one point he had said, like, well, what if we just, when I die, what if we just do like a funeral pyre and send me down the Mississippi or something? Like that was the kind of guy my dad was. And it was just like, okay, Dad, like, it's so weird, like whatever. But it was 5 or so years before he died, he was like, I just want to let you guys know I've made the final decision about my death wishes. I would like to become a skeleton in the science lab of my high school. And again, it was just like normal behavior, just another combo with Dad. We were just like, all right, good talk, like pass the butter, Dad. Except fast forward to March of 2017 when we're in palliative care and I'm sitting next to my dad who is dying. My dad, my favorite person. We're like, oh shit, this is what he wants. We got to figure this out. And we did figure it out. And a lot of things, it's not an average death wish, but it is possible, especially with a lot of determination. My brother and I were very determined to figure it out in that palliative care room. My mom was definitely a little like, this seems like a lot, like maybe we're good, right? We could just bag it. But my brother and I were like, this is what he wants. We need to figure it out. And actually it was just this great, incredible gift in that moment. We were absolutely devastated that we were having to go through this. But it gave us this purpose in that horrific time, something to focus on and a puzzle to put together. You know what I mean? And so we figured it out. And all these years later, 2 years ago, the forensic anthropologist in DC was going to put my dad's bones together in the Smithsonian Museum. But it just was taking a long time and there was a lot of red tape. And so he did a kind of an unorthodox thing and he emailed us 2 years ago and said, I'm so sorry it's taken me so long to put your dad's skeleton together. But just to make things go quicker, I just picked him up yesterday. I brought him to my house and I'm just going to put him together in my basement. And quickly rewind back to palliative care for a second. When we were researching how to make a dead body into a skeleton next to my dying father, I found myself laughing and I kind of was just like, Dad, you motherfucker, like you're making me laugh and you're dying and this is horrible. But again, like what a gift, right? But in this research, I was thinking to myself, I don't make films for a living, but I was like, I feel like this is a film. This is a story. I feel like someone should hear this story at some point. And on top of that, I had this vision, and I don't think I even shared it with anyone else, but that when my dad's skeleton was going to be ready, I was going to rent an RV, buckle him in the front seat of my RV. And with my husband, with my brother, with his wife, and we didn't have kids at that point, but in my head, it was like, we will probably have kids by then. So they'll come with us too. And we'll drive from DC to New Hampshire, where my dad's high school is. And, but I don't think I even shared that with anyone. I did share this like film idea, but I didn't do anything with it. And I think something to mention here is that I have, my confidence in myself has been a struggle my whole life, believing in myself, following through on something. But I wanted to make a film then, but I pushed it down. On top of which I was grieving my father. And then unfortunately, also, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer 6 months after my dad passed away. And so everything, we all transitioned into saving my mom. I just lost my dad. I can't lose my mom now. And so she underwent pretty rigorous chemo and radiation, and things looked like we were heading in the right direction. Her tumor, which was in her sinus, was shrinking. And then, but unfortunately, this very rare cancer did an even more rare thing, and it spread to her bone marrow, and she died 7 months after she was diagnosed. And I happened to be 2 months pregnant with my now 5-year-old daughter. So the skeleton was being assembled, or the decomposition process was happening during that time. We were taking care of my mom, and then I had my daughter, and then I had a son. I also have a stepdaughter, Cameron. She's 15. I also have a dog named Bear. He's a diva. So a lot happened in that span of time. And coupled with this lack of confidence or belief in myself of wanting to make this film. But when the forensic anthropologist emailed me and said, I'm sorry it's taken so long, I'm going to put them together in my basement, it was like another slap in the face of like, in a positive way, of like, Olivia, this is a film. He's going to put your dad's bones together in his basement of his personal home. And another thing he said, he was like, you know, your dad isn't the only skeleton I have in my basement. I have about 7 more. And I was just like, this is turning out even better than my dad could have probably ever expected. But again, I was like, nope, not doing it. And I'd pushed it down so much, this idea of making this film, that I had resigned to the fact that nothing was going to happen. But I knew that regardless, film or not, I was going to pick up the skeleton, drive it in some capacity, and take it on some adventures to deliver it to his school. But I'd pushed that idea so far down that I had contacted my dad, my husband's aunt, Erin, who's a professional photographer. And I had asked her, without telling her about this film idea, anything, I just said, hey, I'm going to be taking this road trip whenever the skeleton's ready. Would you come with me and take some pictures so I can look at them forever? And she said, absolutely. And she lives in my neighborhood. She said, absolutely, I'd love to. And then about an hour later, she called me and she's like, can you come over right now? And I was like, okay. And I brought both my kids. I sat on her couch and she looked me in the eye and she said, Olivia, you know, I think you might be able to do something more with this than just have me take some pictures. And I said to her, you know, I had never told her. I just said, it came out of my mouth. I just was like a film. And she was like, yeah, I think you could make a film. And I was like, I know. And then she said, Olivia, if you've been looking for someone to tell you that you can do this, this is me telling you that you can do this. And that was the match lighting that I needed to go for it. And I'm so grateful for her. And so then we were like, who do we know in film? And then we were like, nobody. Okay, cool, whatever. And so I remembered I interned with this guy in college who is a filmmaker now. He won an Emmy for being the producer on the show Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown.
Oh, is she frozen?
At first, I thought she was crying about Anthony Bourdain, but I think she's frozen. But let's have a moment for Anthony while we wait.
Oh my gosh, that's my mom's biggest crush in the world. And she has a candle of him in her house.
Come Come back, Olivia.
You guys can see why we invited her to be our guest, huh? The story is just, and we haven't even gotten to the journey yet.
Hey, everybody.
Okay, so she's gone, and looks
She's
like
back.
she's back.
Sorry about that.
All right.
I don't know where I left off, but basically, I reached out to this filmmaker and figured he would be way too busy jumping out of airplanes and filming in like Antarctica for like a National Geographic show or something. But my light had lit by that point too. So it was like, even if he doesn't respond, I will just hook up my phone in the middle of my car and do this drive and film it. And I don't know how I'll share it, but I'll figure it out. But he wrote back like 2 days later and he said, Olivia, I think this is a story that we need to share. And that was an incredible email. And so last November, rather, not this most recent November or December, but the one before, Eric is his name, flew to DC to this man's basement and filmed some footage of him assembling the skeleton. And then that December, I flew to DC with my Aunt Erin. She still needed to come with me, obviously, especially after that pep talk, right? And I picked up the skeleton, buckled him in the back seat of my rental minivan, and we made some stops in DC. We drove to New York City, where I'm from. We stopped in front of my old building. We went to some of my favorite places I used to visit with my dad. We stopped at some of the buildings that he wrote about in the city, and then had to wrap filming for a schedule issue. And my friend in Boston, we went to upstate New York, where we met my husband and my kids and my brother and his wife and their kids. Neither of our children got to meet either of my parents. And so having them interact or meet a piece of my father was incredibly important to me. And so that was really special. And then, we had to stop filming for a bit. I kept the skeleton in, my friend works in Boston. And so I had to, and he let me keep the skeleton in the bathroom of his office for a couple months, and then picked him up this most recent June, picked the skeleton up, strapped him in the backseat of my new rental car, and drove him from Boston to Cape Cod, took a ferry across the Vineyard Sound to Martha's Vineyard, which I've explained to you now is just an extremely important place to me. And took him on some adventures there. And then at the end of that, drove him up to New Hampshire to his school. So a lot has happened. Filming wrapped at the end of June. And then the film went into the edit and was submitted to a ton of film festivals. And I just got back here to Chicago, where I live, a couple days ago, because our film just premiered at the Santa Barbara Film Festival, which was really, really cool and really, really special. I walked a red carpet. We had the premiere, we had a Q&A. We had a second screening with another Q&A. And on top of that, there is a screenwriter that has kind of come out of the woodwork, who has made films that a lot of us have heard of. And she, unfortunately, has lost both of her parents too. And she is going to be writing a fictional adaptation of my life story and into a feature length commercial film. So it's all really exciting and it's all coming together.
The first question is, who's going to play you? Sorry to interrupt.
Like, such a weird thing to think about, right?
Such
Like,
a weird thing.
I think about my favorite actresses, but like, are they like me? Like, I don't think so. So I'm not sure, but I'm open to whoever they choose. She better have my humor and charming good looks. That's all I've got to say. No. But yeah, I mean, I think I've left a couple gaps out, but I have some things to some visual aids. I think like some of you on the Death Wives Instagram have followed me because of them sharing my account today on Instagram, but I figured it might be helpful to share this intro video that I made, explaining and giving a little bit more of a visual idea of what happened in real time. And then I've got some photos that my Aunt Erin shot throughout the journey. I might give you a little preview of the film too. So here is this video to start with. Wait, hold on. Okay. What is Dead Daddy Trip? Hi, I'm Olivia, and this was my dad. He was a New York Times columnist for 27 years, but to me, he was just my incredible dad. 6 months after my wedding in 2017, my dad died unexpectedly, and it turned my whole world upside down. But here's the thing. My dad had a death wish, and not just any death wish. His death wish was to become a skeleton in the science lab of his high school, and he left no instructions, but my family and I were determined to figure out how to do this for him. First, we flew him to the University of Tennessee Forensics Body Farm, and then to the Smithsonian Museum in DC. This process took a long time, during which my mom was diagnosed with and died of cancer a year and a half after my dad died when I was pregnant with my daughter. And my world got turned upside down again. I now have 2 small children, my stepdaughter and a dog named Bear, and recently my dad's skeleton was completed. I flew to DC with my Aunt Erin and a film crew, picked up my dad's skeleton and met the man who put the bones together. Then I took my dad's skeleton on a road trip around DC to New York, and then he even met my family. Why am I doing this? Because sharing my story has made me feel better, and I think it can help you too. So come with me as I journey through the happy, the sad, the funny, and the weird twists and turns of my physical, but mainly emotional journey through life, grief, and the in-between. And I hope I can convince you to share your stories so I can get... I'm not a film editor. But that's a little something. I made that before we did the Martha's Vineyard part of filming. Before I go, or I can scroll through these while I talk about this, but this entire journey is something that I felt called to do, even since palliative care. But if you're called to death work, I think that you might be able to understand this, that grief and loss is something that I carry with me every day. But there is joy to be had in grief. And I find that to be a misconception. I was laughing in that palliative care room, right? And it was shocking. And I initially felt guilty about it, but at the same time, then I was like, no, this is real. And like Aaron and Lauren said in the beginning, there is, it's funny at times, it's sad at times, but this whole journey has been like that. But that's what grief is, right? There's so many emotions tied to that. And so I want to share that to hopefully encourage others to feel more comfortable and less alone in their grief, and also around the concept of dying. And this entire process, I explained to you that confidence has been an issue my whole life. And it's this wish of my dad's has been the ultimate gift for so many reasons, but mainly because it's helped me step into my higher calling and my passion. And I'm so grateful for that. My dad always said, I want my children to fly. This is a photocopy he printed on his inkjet computer, and he wrote that on there. I want my children to fly. And his death and my mom's death and his wish and this journey has been me embracing that wish and truly learning how to fly. So I'm so grateful. So here's some pictures. That's my Aunt Erin right here. I'm pointing, but you can't see me what I'm pointing at. This was in DC in the hotel the morning after I picked him up. This was in upstate New York with my kids. This was on Martha's Vineyard. That's Dr. Dave. I took the skeleton roller skating at a roller rink. That's at the Lincoln Memorial. This is in upstate New York when I had to take the bones apart and put them in a box. This is in New Hampshire when I dropped off the skeleton at the school. That was another thing too. We had to in that initial Google search time in palliative care, we had to contact the school to be like, would you even want him? And they were like, well, actually, here's this whole email communication that we've had with your dad. And he had said to them, which I find absolutely genius. This is my son, Emmett. Um, he said, you know, I love my school so much. When I die, I would love to donate $25,000 to the school. But here's the kicker. I would love to have my bones flensed and my skeleton displayed in your science classroom for a period of 10 years or until the senior class steals it, whichever comes first. And he said, if you accept my skeleton and do this for me, then I will double my donation. And the school then, of course, said, you know, like, we would love to have you. And which I just like find so funny. I can only imagine like what that person was doing or how that felt to read that email. And also that search term, he had said flensed. That was helpful in our initial Google search of like, how do we do this? So it was like how to flense a body. And I remember contacting this like taxidermy place somewhere in the South that does like large animals. And I was so desperate because palliative care was like, we don't know how to do that. And the school was like, we don't know how to do that. And his doctor was like, yeah, I have no idea. This taxidermy place in the South, I was like, you know, I know you do big animals. Like, would you ever do people? And they were like, no, like who'd you say you are again? And that was when I started laughing because I was like, oh my God, this is horrific. Like, this is hilarious and ridiculous and horrifying and heartbreaking all at the same time. So here's a taste of all of this. My Aunt Erin wants to make a photo book of these images at some point. I think I'm obviously biased, but I think they're absolutely beautiful. My daughter, that's my niece, Quinny, and my nephew, Louie. But my daughter, I was really nervous about what my daughter and my son and my niece and my nephew how they were going to react. But I think if you are a parent, it really comes down to how you talk to your kids about it. I explained, you know, we call my dad and my mom, Grandma Gray and Grandpa Gray. And I explained, you know what, like, you know how Grandma Gray and Grandpa Gray aren't here and you never got to meet them. And my son Emmett was too young when I explained it, but my daughter was like, yeah. And I was like, well, my Grandpa Gray was a pretty funny guy. And he actually wanted, instead of going to a graveyard, he wanted to become a skeleton, like the big skeleton that we have in our front yard at Halloween, because we have a 12-foot skeleton, of course. And she was like, really? And I was like, yes. And I'm actually, you know, I have to pick up the skeleton soon. And I'm going to drive it and I'm going to stop on the way so that you can maybe meet it if you want to. And she was just like, amazing, like, cool. But I was like, you know what, Lily, like, but it might be a little scary and that's okay. I'm a little scared too. And if it gets too scary, he's on wheels. We can push him in a closet and close the door if we have to. And my kids were just incredible. I mean, like, they thought it was the coolest thing ever. My daughter Lily put her head inside the rib cage and said, "Mom, I fit." It's like, there you go. Okay, great. So it was super. I mean, I think it was a valid concern that I was really worried. But this is Lily right here. But it worked out better than I could have ever imagined. And another thing to say too is that the school made this like wooden box with a glass panel door in the front. And I put the skeleton in and we closed it and we locked it. My dad isn't the only skeleton in the classroom. There's another one, a female. I have to say my dad's like a lot cuter. But when I put my dad in that glass and wood container, that box, that almost coffin, I the two biggest feelings that I had were like, holy shit, we did it. And I feel amazing about that and extremely moved. But another thing was like, now he's locked. Now his skeleton's locked in this box. Like, thank God I took him on all these adventures, because now he's living this really boring afterlife in this box in this classroom. So that was another feeling that I had. Yeah. So here's some more photos. My dad kept some pretty incredible journals throughout his life, and so Aaron captured some of those photos too. But you get the idea of the whole journey. I will now show you. I can't show you the whole film, but I love the Deathwives so much, and I just like want to share the film so much, but we have to wait. We're waiting for more film festivals to get back to us. So here's a little preview. So buckle up. You're going to lose someone that you care about at some point in your life. There's no other way around it. Other than that, it's just going to be really shitty. It's going to be awful. You kind of have to convince yourself that you're okay. Yeah, this will help you process things. Stay with the breath. Why am I even doing this? So that's all I can show you right now. But yeah, so that's what I've got for right now.
Hooey! Yeah. Everybody's like clapping and full of questions, which we want to open it up for everyone to ask. I was taking notes, even though I've heard this story before, Olivia. It's such an incredible story, and I mean, a lot I could say, but I feel like your dad is giving you so much after he's died. Like, this is such a beautiful example of a relationship existing past death. And it's really, really moving. I'll ask more questions if other people don't, but my only other question before I stop talking is, how did you go about hiring a photographer for this? I'm curious, your like emails to the photographer, or did you have a family photographer on board already?
So Erin, the aunt who sat me down, so the photographer, my aunt and photographer, Erin, she, was already going to come with me.
Okay, so
and
then
then
I missed that
she
part.
just
So
came with me anyway.
your aunt is the photographer. Okay.
And she is the photographer. So not only was she my helper, but she took incredible photos.
They are incredible. The photos are stunning. The photos are so stunning.
They're really beautiful.
Wow. All right, everyone. Well, we'll just popcorn it. If you want to talk, please unmute yourself and ask Olivia a question or give feedback. We've got another 20, 25 minutes or so to hang out.
Yeah.
She is a talented photographer.
It looks like we have a lot of people who are just like, can we see this movie? How do we see this movie?
I know. So I can't, here's a little, this is footage from my camera. But can't share it as of yet. So, I mean, my experience in the film industry is limited at this point. But from what I understand is we wanted a film festival to pick it up to premiere it. We have done that now. The goal is now for other film festivals to see the reviews that we've gotten from this most recent film festival and be like, oh, like, yes, we want to show it at our film festival now as well. And that sort of like boosts your clout. And then from there, we will then negotiate or pitch and hopefully then negotiate with like streaming platforms to share it on their platforms. We've got this additional thing in the mix now too with this filmmaker, the screenwriter. And so part of that will be pitching this short documentary, which is 25 minutes long, to a platform like a Netflix or a Hulu. And then also be like, hey, and we have this Oscar-winning screenwriter that is writing a script, wants to make it her directorial debut as well. Do you want to fund this project in addition to that? And we can negotiate that whole package. And so that's a possibility. Another possibility is that we just negotiate with a platform to share just our film. And then separately, the screenwriter, myself, and the production crew who helped me make this documentary will then go to studios like a Lionsgate, for example, and say, hey, we have this idea. Here's this short documentary to give you some background info. Would you like to negotiate the sale of Olivia's life story rights to fund a feature-length film, feature-length scripted narrative film version of this? So lots of kind of things at play and in the right now. And so we're kind of in this like holding period. But as soon as I am able to share the film, I would like to, because I'm busting at the seams. Yeah.
So I have a question, but it's also kind of a question from Zeffy. And you just showed a video of you roller skating with dad, flying in an airplane. And there was one other, in the canoe or kayak.
Yep.
Was there any sort of like reactions or anybody who said, what is this? No, we're not like, or did people not even realize like what was going on?
A mixture of like all of those things. So I was really nervous that like a policeman was gonna like pull me over and be like, hey, you're speeding. Also like, why is there a skeleton in your backseat? And then like, and I practiced like all the scenarios in my head of like, how do I answer that? Like, well, he's my dad. But like he wanted this, like, I swear, I don't know. Like it wasn't going well of my scenarios in my head, but nothing ever happened like that. We went to the Lincoln Memorial, which is like a park, and there were park rangers around and they just like didn't even bat an eyelash. Maybe because he was already dead, maybe because no one thought that maybe they just were like, this isn't real, like he's clearly like a fake skeleton or something. The reactions from people around in DC were funny too. So like there were kids like around on a field trip and they like saw it was like they noticed the cameras more than the skeleton and they were like, are we going to be on TV? And then there were like the teachers and then some other adults around too that were like, hey, like what's going on here? And then I had this is my father. He had a death wish to become a skeleton in the science lab of his high school. And we just picked him up yesterday and you'll see in the film. But this woman, I didn't notice it until after the film had been completed. But I remember her talking to me and she was like, you picked him up just yesterday. And I was like, just yesterday. And she takes a step back, like, what? Like he was fresh or something. And then like, so people were like maybe a little less shy and like more open in DC. And then when we got to New York, it was just like such a funny transition. New York City is New York City. And so everyone's sort of like, can you get out of my way? Like, just like, I'm busy. What is this? Like, get the fuck out. Like an occasional, like walking by us and then like kind of turning to be like, what the fuck is that? But no real like questions, there. And then Martha's Vineyard, was, I mean, people were really friendly. So like going on the ferry, I had a lot of people come up to me and ask me. And people were very moved, I would say on the whole on the ferry. That was really cool. So different reactions throughout. No one arrested me. No one had major concerns. Like some of the families that I grew up with on Martha's Vineyard, kind of uppity, waspy types, there have been interesting reactions. So like a lot of support, but the occasional question of like, did your dad want you to take a drive with him? or did he just want to be in the science lab? And then like that kind of an interesting question without really an explanation of the judgment, but you know that the judgment's there. And then talking to this guy on Martha's Vineyard that my family knew. He kind of like I didn't know if he knew what I was doing. It's been like an interesting thing of like, who knows, who doesn't know. And so like when someone's like, how are you doing? Or like, what have you been up to? It's been like, I don't know. Like, am I answering this? Like, my kids are great. P.S. I've been working on this interesting project. Or am I just like, my kids are great. P.S. I just took a road trip. No mention of the skeleton. Unclear. You kind of have to gauge that situation. And I gauged it wrong with him. He didn't know. And then I was like, well, yeah, I've been doing this road trip with my dad's skeleton. I picked him up, you know, you remember, and he shut me down. He's probably like the most negative response I've gotten. He kind of was like, Olivia, like, no, I can't. I loved your dad very much, but like, this is all too much. This is all too much. And he walked away. And you know, one of those responses like that are indicative more of the person themselves rather than me. And I've never really let that kind of response affect me or get in the way. And I understand that death is confronting and terrifying, especially in a society that doesn't talk about it enough. And so that doing all of this, there was a potential, or there is a potential of rubbing people the wrong way, and making maybe think people feel exposed in their own upcoming mortality, or the mortality of their loved ones that they haven't really quite processed yet. So yeah.
That's perfect though. That's exactly that's exactly what we want people to do. And I know that had to probably be a difficult thing too, to have somebody just be so, I don't know, just I think I would have a hard time with people not understanding it, especially because you're so happy in this decision and you're getting to fulfill his wishes. So I'm glad that you powered through no matter what. And there's a lot of very lovely comments in the chat.
Yeah.
If you want to read those.
I'm
But
sorry, I really do. I'm so ADHD. It's like sensory overload of like people, screens, words.
well,
Like,
you can hang out with us for a few minutes after, so you can read everything.
them.
I have to say, this is probably one of our most interactive. Everybody freaking loves you tea talks.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think that another like interesting and amazing thing you were asking about feedback or concerns or from people along the way, and regardless of what happens and what people think about it, it definitely gets people starting to talk about it. So at the end of the day, that's what I'm here for. You know, I'd love to, I said this before to you all, but I'd love to help people feel more comfortable and less alone in their grief. Grief can be very lonely and very isolating. And I say that from my own experience. And so generating any conversation about this is wonderful and positive or negative. It just is, it's my goal. So, but talking to people in Santa Barbara who came to the premiere and came to the screening and asked questions in the Q&A, I could tell already, like people felt comfortable coming up to me and saying, my mom just died a couple weeks ago, like, thank you so much. Or someone would come up to me and say, you know, I had the funniest thing happen when I was trying to scatter my dad's ashes. So, I mean, it's like, that's what I'm here for. Feeling more comfortable sharing those kind of stories and not feeling like you've got to keep that funny situation to yourself, or keeping that sadness that you felt to yourself, because grief and death is a universal truth that we all share. So oh, okay, Reese Witherspoon, cool.
So Becky asked one question: if anyone in your family has now changed their death plans in response to this journey?
Not specifically. My mom wanted to be cremated, and something interesting too about when we figured out how to make my dad into a skeleton. My brother was about to go downstairs to like submit this paperwork to this funeral home, because the funeral home had to pick up the body and then ship it to Tennessee. My mom said as he was walking out the room, like, but wait, can't the, since it's, you know, the body's going through the funeral home, like, can't they cremate just like a finger or something? It's just so I'm buried, so I'm not buried alone. Which was so sweet and so human and understandable, right? And my brother, who hides a lot of his feelings, was just very like, yeah, whatever, like, I'll see what I can do. And the funeral home gave us something, and I've, you know, I'm talking to Aaron and Lauren too, like, unclear whether those ashes came from my father or just like a little extra on the ground in the crematorium. Unclear, but we got some, and my mom had it, and then my mom died a year and a half later. And so we poured whoever's ashes those were, along with my mom's ashes in the ocean, that summer. And also we had my family dog's ashes. We hadn't scattered those yet, so we scattered those with just all together at the same time. And they all sank too. I thought they were going to flow in the water, and they just sank to the bottom of the ground at the bottom of this like swimming ladder. So we had to like tell everyone, like, just maybe just don't go swimming for a little bit. Yeah. And so she was not scattered or buried alone, after all, which I'm glad. I don't know about my brother's death wishes. I know it's definitely made me ponder mine. And I'm not entirely decided, but I wouldn't be opposed to being a skeleton. It's just a matter of,
Ooh, family tradition. 20 years down the line, how many of you are there?
I don't know. And then like, if I became a skeleton, would I be like, hey, St. Paul's, my dad at school, like, do you want me too? And
Do
they'll
you
be
want
like,
me
I
or?
think we're good. Like, we're good. Not sure. So, I also, one thing to mention too, is I have 2 of his bones still. This is a toe bone, and I'm not sure what this bone is, to be honest with you, but it came from him, and I have it. A unique, I mean, all of this is clearly very unique, but on Martha's Vineyard, my belief system in like the spiritual realm, behind the veil, communication with the afterlife, all of that has been complicated for a long time. You know, I had that swimming accident. And a lot of people after that, I was 13, asked me, you know, like, did you see the light, or did you talk to anyone, or did an angel come for you? And I do not remember anything at all. I just remember waking up in a hospital a week later. And I think that experience really made me question, a lot. Like, well, if people are asking me, did I experience anything, and I didn't, then that must mean that there isn't anything. And so for a long time, and even in the film, I hadn't even like changed my mind in the film when the film was being filmed. I would tell you that no, I don't believe that anything. I don't know if they're in the clouds or they're like in white sheets flying around me. But I think that there's always been a hope there, right? I've always wanted to get a sign, and maybe all of this is a yearning for me to feel more connected with my father, spiritually or not. I think you can make a sad joke that like, well, he's dead, I can't take any more road trips with him, so I had to settle for taking a road trip with a skeleton. But there's always been a hope that I would receive a sign or something, from my parents, and I never really have, except when I got to Martha's Vineyard, which is a hugely important piece of my life. And it's truly where I feel closest to my parents. It's just like, I can even like, the smell like reminds me of them. Some things happen there, and it's really transformed my entire belief system. And what a special thing that was. So my mom was questioning in palliative care if we should do this or not, because she's like, this is weird. And I think, you know, if you think about it now, knowing how she wanted a finger so she wasn't buried alone, I think it came down to that fear with her was just like, well, I'm going to be alone when I die. But my mom, so I always sort of felt like my mom was judging all this potentially, like me taking this drive, me sort of parading the skeleton around, creating this social media page, making a film, all of this. And when I got to the island, I had to go downstairs to our basement to get a mirror. We'd done painting last year and we had to take everything off the walls. And I had to get a mirror in the basement and bring it upstairs because if we're filming, I got to like check myself out and make sure I look okay. And on the top step of the stairs onto the main floor, I like tripped and fell into this mirror that I was holding, and the mirror shattered in like a million pieces. And I was like, holy fuck, what is this sign? I was like, well, the bad luck for 7 years thing, I don't know if that comes into play because I've lost both my parents already. So I don't know what's left. But I was just like, is this my mom being like, I told you not to do this? And so I don't know. But then later, another part of filming that I wanted to do desperately, I said to this film crew, you could film this, you can include this in the film. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm doing this anyway. I've always loved to sing. And but I've always been afraid of sharing my voice. I've always been like very shaky in the way that I sing in front of people. And then on top of that, I've always had, with this whole self-confidence thing, I've always had issues with my own body image. And this entire process has been me sort of breaking those barriers down and being like, I am who I am, and it's awesome. And so I had this dream before I went to Martha's Vineyard for this part of filming. And I dreamed that in the dream, I was on Martha's Vineyard in the middle of the forest. Our house is down this long dirt road in the forest with a karaoke machine, with my dad's skeleton standing next to me in a green bikini, and me in some hot pink cowboy boots singing a song to sort of show my parents and everyone I'm proud of who I am, whoever that is. And the film crew was like, we love it. And they didn't actually end up putting it in film at all, which I find hilarious. But but I have the recording. And so we did that, and it was amazing. Cathartic, really cool, really special. And then we were about to, because I was already in a bathing suit, we were going to run to the beach with the skeleton. Then I was already in the bathing suit. So why not do the swimming part right after? And it was like 60 degrees the whole time we were there too. So like not super warm. But I'm in the name of the film, I will swim wherever you need me to. And so I had to go to the bathroom really fast before I went to the beach. I had to grab a towel. So I was like, you guys got the skeleton, make sure it's good. They're like, we got it. I ran in, went to the bathroom, got a towel, came out, and the skeleton had been knocked over in this huge gust of wind. And I'll never forget Eric, the producer, being like, there's been an accident with the skeleton. And I was like, but he's already dead. And there were ribs off of the skeleton. And then that was, to me, I was just like, Olivia, you had one fucking job. He wanted to be a skeleton. He didn't ask you to do all this. He didn't ask you to wear a bikini. He didn't ask you to take a road trip. He just wanted to be a skeleton, and look what you've done. And that was also like is this my mom being like, you're really not getting it. You're really not getting it. I told you that this is too much, and now you've just taken it too far. So this is the only way I can get you to listen to me. And something came over me in that moment. I don't know how to make skeletons. I don't build many things, but I was like, I need to go to a hardware store and I need to buy epoxy. Like, it just was like, I need to get epoxy. And I went to a hardware store. I got epoxy. I did some really weird surgery on my dad's skeleton, and it was really dark and weird. But I fixed it. And so there was that sign. And then another thing was I spent my whole life going to Martha's Vineyard. There are these like little blue and white piece, like cup and saucer that we had on the island. And when I was like 4 and my brother was 8, my dad, knowing that we like to throw things and break things, my mom was like ready to get rid of this one cup and one saucer. It wasn't like a set of anything. So he put them in our driveway of our house, and he let us like have at it, throw rocks at them and break them into pieces. And that was a really long time ago, but I remember that. And every time I ever go to Martha's Vineyard, and you have to walk on that part of the driveway to get to our beach. Every time I walk over that part, I look down to see if there are any pieces of blue and white china. And there've never been any pieces. Like, we cleaned it up, right? But I always like, every time I walk by it, I look, and there's never been anything. And this was after filming. I have chills again thinking about this. Filming had wrapped. The film crew had left the island. It was just me. It was just my Aunt Erin and the skeleton. And I'm walking, and I look down where I always look down, and there were 3 big pieces of blue and white china right there. And that was the coolest thing that I've maybe ever experienced. And it was just this huge feeling of, you're exactly where you need to be, and you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So yeah, sorry, I keep talking.
Tiffany, you've had your hand raised.
Sorry.
So I want you to be able to talk.
Yeah.
No, this has been amazing, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I just want to say I find myself really, really emotional watching you and listening to this and this story. And I sit on quite a bit of calls where I feel like I've got it together, but this one really touched my heart. So I think I want to say that out loud to you and just let you know that I'm really, really looking forward to seeing this film. I lost my husband when my children were young, and so I've seen their journey through grief as a mom, watching them miss their dad. And so this film allows me to, I want to share this with them, and I want to talk about this with them. And it allows us, which I've tried to do as a mom, to bring humor into the process, which you can imagine when they were young and I was raising them without their dad, like the grief and the weight of that it was terrifying, right? And I thought our lives were over, and they're going to grow up being these sad, depressed people their whole lives. And it's always going to be this black cloud over their head. And so I really tried as a mom to lighten that. But of course, as most people on this call understand, that's hard because there's guilt. You're not supposed to laugh when someone dies, but we have a lot of dead dad jokes, and we have a lot of weird, dark humor. And so I guess I just want to personally thank you for doing this film, because it's really out there. Like you've said, it's new, it's groundbreaking. But I feel like it is such a great vehicle for introducing this beauty of being able to wrap grief with laughter and lightness, like all the things you were saying at the very beginning of the call. So thank you for that. I can't wait to share this with my children. I can't wait for the world to see this, and you are a total gem. So it's really going to shine. It's really going to shine.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I would say we all second that.
Yeah, well said, Tiffany. And well said, Olivia. I mean, that was so much. I feel like we could have another 45 minutes of Q&A, because this is like, I've heard her story, and these are all the notes I took while you were talking.
Yeah.
So thank you. We're excited for you. Keep us on your journey. And it's that ability to hold like the gritty grief of it, the reality. Like, there have to be moments, maybe they're not anymore, but even in my own grief, like there's this one plate that was my sister's. I can wear her clothes. I can, I have so many of her things, but for some reason, every time that plate comes to the top of the pile, I'm like, oh, I can't use that plate. So like, I'm sure there are moments where like the reality of it is hard, but then there are all of the light moments, and it's probably the best legacy project you've ever seen in my life. So kudos to you. Also, I wrote down as you were talking, like, you're being so vulnerable. Your story made people cry. I can't think of a better anecdote to insecurity than brave vulnerability that's like met with love and curiosity and like, more please. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you once again for being here. We love you. We'll definitely want you back. I mean, if this movie comes out, we'll be telling the world, obviously.
Oh, it's just going to be our famous Olivia.
Yeah. So we will patiently await, or Olivia, you can always message us, where it's being premiered. Tiffany, she's in California. You would have driven up to Santa Barbara if you knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, just let us know. We'll keep sharing because this is life-changing work. I think it's life-changing for you, but it's going to change other people's lives too. And that's a powerful legacy from you and your dad.
I hope so. I really hope so. Yeah. And it's also this quest for me to feel less alone too. It's not just
Right.
that I want to share it for the purpose of helping others, which is
Right. It's not entirely
really what I want to do. It's just like, I also want to feel less alone. So
well, you're creating meaning, and like I said earlier, a continued relationship that it extends past death, and that's the coolest thing.
yeah.
All right, everybody, have a good afternoon. We got to cut it off now because we have to hop into our one-on-one meetings. We will see your faces next month.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Will you let me